I just put on the credit card, and then now I'm like scrambling to make money. And if you were to go all in on your side hustle or your dream, could you reasonably cover those expenses? What's up, guys? Steven here, back with another video. And a couple weeks ago, it was actually about a week ago, I put a story on my Instagram. It was just a poll asking what type of video my followers would rather see. I think it was how to sign your first client or how I quit my 9 to 5 and start my business. And so that's exactly what I'm gonna be talking about today, which is how I quit my 9 to 5 to go all in on my dream, right? My business. And that's what I do now to this day. I'm gonna kind of give you some context first behind how I started in university, like my dream, kind of how I freelanced and then got into my 9 to 5, how I got that job, and then when I actually quit, and specifically the decision criteria by which I chose to quit my job and logically went through the process of actually quitting, because my case and my scenario is gonna look a lot different than your scenario. And if you're watching this, you might work at a 9 to 5, right? And you might have a side hustle or something that you do wanna go all in on. But maybe you have a family, maybe you have kids that you gotta provide for, right? And so your scenario is gonna look a lot different. So this is not advice by any means, just how I did it. And what you should do is not take it at service level, but kind of pull from the concepts that I've used to be able to make the decision and kind of why it worked for me, the context behind it, and how you can actually apply that to your specific scenario, right? Because there's definitely always something to learn, but my life is my life and your life is yours. So it's going to look a lot different. But getting into it, back in, I think it was, I graduated high school in 2019. Went right into university after that. My grandparents graciously paid for me to go through a university, and that was an absolute blessing that I was able to do that. But I went to university for business. I went to BCIT, it's just a university by my house, or kind of the city that I live. Went there for business and graduated, or was supposed to graduate in 2022, I believe. Yeah, 2022. And so I was getting closer to the end of the year. It was around April. And back in 2021, I had started freelancing a little bit. One of my professors had a consulting business, and one of my friends and I, shout out Chase, we kind of wanted to start our own business on the side. And so we kind of did. And I started cold calling. That's the advice that my professor gave me. He just said, hey, just pick up the phone and start dialing. So that's what I did while I was in university, because I wanted to get a job in my field, but nobody's going to hire a student just part-time, right? So I did it on my own. Started, got a few clients. I think in that summer of 2021, I made $200 that whole summer. That was DMing people every single day. I think I only DM'd about 30 people a day. So like not that much, but still DMing people, trying to call people. I made like $200 that whole summer. It was like nothing, right? And then getting into 2022 now, I was kind of doing that on the side while I was still in university. And then I was applying to jobs since the year or our bachelor's was kind of ending. I was finishing up my courses and we're kind of getting ready to graduate. And I was going to graduate late because I went to school right out of high school. A lot of people in my program had already done a bunch of courses before they went into this program. So I would have graduated kind of end of 2022. But I got a job after. It was around, I think I got hired in June, something like that, May or June. But either way, I was kind of still freelancing at that point while I was looking for a job, and it was going okay. It's on a client here or there, not making a ton of money, but I got the job. And what ended up happening was, after a couple weeks, after 2 weeks specifically, I realized that this wasn't really for me. At the time, living at my parents' house, paying not that much rent, not having to pay too much for groceries, so expenses were low. Keeping that in mind, right? My expenses were low, but I had signed a few clients here and there. And I remember distinctly one day at this 9 to 5, I took my lunch break, which I actually didn't do very often at the job, but I took a lunch break because I had a sales call with a client, and I closed the client, which at that time, the project was more money than I would actually make in a single month of working at my job there. And so I kind of thought to myself, I was like, okay, if I can make more money in one day than I would at this job per month, and if I just repeated these actions and took the time that I was spending at this job and just dedicated it to the business, I could probably make a little bit more money. And so the job, I think I was making like 50K a year or something, 55K. Wasn't that much, but really good, really good opportunity for something right out of university at the time, right? For how old I was. But so after 3 weeks, realized that I was like, okay, I just need to go all into my dream. My expenses are low with what I'm making, with what I can make with my side hustle at the time. I could cover my expenses. And so, I would ask you, tell you, just think about what your expenses are right now on a monthly basis, how you're covering them. And if you were to go all in on your side hustle or your dream, could you reasonably cover those expenses, right? So I did that. I quit the job after 3 weeks, and it was a great job, like fantastic people. They gave me a great opportunity. As far as 9 to 5s go, it was probably the perfect opportunity, a perfect job, if there was one, right? And I quit the job after 3 weeks and then went all into the business. And that whole year, so keeping in mind last year, 2021, I made $200 from the freelancing. Then 2022, after going through school and then the job that I got and then quitting and then going all in, 2022, the whole year, I made 18K. And then 2023, just this past year, we're just above 100,000, which is not bragging at all. It's actually kind of embarrassing, but just to show you kind of the progression that businesses take, and these things do take time, and that's not a realistic, or I should say, what you can expect in terms of progress. You could make way more, you could make a lot less. However, it's just about where you're at right now in your business, how much you're currently making in your side hustle. And that was for me. And if I were to do this again right now, I might take a different approach with my expenses being a little bit more now, and taking a look at everything that I'm spending on and how I can decrease it as much as possible. Like going out to eat, right? If you go out to eat, maybe you shop a lot, right? Decreasing these expenses as much as possible and living like you're broke. Like that is what I'm still doing to this day. Living like you're broke, not going on a ton of vacations, like not going out on weekends, like nothing like that. Anything extra that you don't need, don't spend on it, and put all that extra money into education. That's the big lever that I pulled, and the thing that I spent money on to be able to increase my capacity to earn money. Like one of the big ones was I paid, it was 20K in Canadian for a course, Client Ascension, shout out Client Ascension, which was almost exactly what my university degree cost in terms of tuition and then like supplies and books and stuff, which was almost the exact same. And with the university degree, I got a 50K job a year. With Client Ascension, after the first 3 weeks, I made the investment back in like less than 2 months. Like it was crazy, the progress that we made in there. So like coaching and education and like putting money into that, it does work. I'm not going to give you advice and say like, go just buy a bunch of programs. No. Like if you can find something that teaches the specific niche that you're in, then absolutely invest your money in that rather than university or college courses that are they're just too broad. And if you're going to be an entrepreneur or a business owner, then it's going to do nothing for you except you're putting money down the drain, really is what you're doing. So, and your time as well, right? Like if you can go to university for 3 years or 4 years, and like my degree was cheap. There's most degrees you're going to be spending 100, 150, 200K for a 4 or 5 year degree. You could be making at minimum, let's just say you didn't make any money and you made 50K a year, right? Instead, now you make 200K in that 4 year period of time rather than spending 200K, which after that you can get a job like you saw with me, 50K a year, right? Like it just, the investment makes 0 sense on paper. But that's the progression that I took. And so I had some experience before, in 2021, doing some freelancing, making a bunch of mistakes right off the bat where I was still in university. I could afford to make a bunch of mistakes. I could afford to not make a ton of money because I was back to living at my parents' home, didn't have to cover expenses for groceries. And so the things that I had to pay for on a monthly basis, that total amount was extremely low, right? And so I didn't have to worry about all that. And coming into 2022 now, graduating university and getting that job, again, I had made a lot of the mistakes. I had some time to learn, some time to make money. And so time was really on my side. And so going all in now, because my expenses were so low, and because I had multiple sources of income for that brief amount of time, which was 3 weeks. I was able to put some money aside into programs, education, courses, all that stuff that taught me skills that would make more money, right? It's in that beginning period, it was about learning skills and becoming someone who was able to, or not able, I should say, but valuable enough to pay to or get paid to do something, right? If you work at a 9 to 5 right now, you are getting paid for a skill that you have. And if you were to quit that 9 to 5 and branch off into your side hustle, if you have one, if you don't have one, whatever, you have to make sure that you're skillful enough to get paid to make money. And maybe you have evidence of that right now, maybe you don't, but like you saw in my scenario, I had evidence that someone was willing to pay me enough money to do the skill for them, which at the time was web design. We still do web design to this day, but we focus on the SEO and lead generation. But either way, at the time, I had the evidence to support the claim of this would make a lot of sense to actually quit my 9 to 5. My expenses are low enough where if I just made this dollar amount minimum every single month, I'd be coolin', right? And so think about what that is for you and if that would make sense. But ultimately, I think most of us, if you're watching this video, you're probably an entrepreneur. Like if you're watching this video and if you stayed to this point, you probably know what you want to do, right? Like you have a side hustle right now, or maybe you're 9 to 5, maybe you work part-time at a job to just make some extra cash on the side so you can support yourself, right? And so think about if you were to take that time that you were at either your 9 to 5 or your part-time job and just invest that time into your business, could you make more money, yes or no? And the answer is most of the time, yes. And often for me, like investing in courses and investing in different things that would increase my capacity to earn money, a lot of time I didn't have the money to do it. I just put it on the credit card and then now I'm like scrambling to make money, which kicks you into overdrive and really lights a fire under your ass to like go make money. And that was oftentimes the catalyst that made me work hard enough to make the money, right? And you don't often get that sense of urgency unless you're spending money, right? So this is not advice. Again, this is not financial advice whatsoever. This is just what I did. This is how it helped me by spending money on courses. And people say you got to spend money to make money, and that's true in a sense of spending it in the right places. And so again, the big decision criteria was just thinking to myself, okay, if I were to do these primary actions, if I were to keep the same level of income right now that I'm making from my side hustle with my expenses, just did the same thing, not taking into account growth, right? Like, being as conservative as humanly possible, because you don't want to get into a scenario where you're just getting Excel rich, right? Where you're going on Excel or Google Sheets and try to calculate how much money you could make, which is off like 99% of the time doesn't work. You got to be realistic about it. Think about the worst month that you had in your business or your side hustle. And if you were to just have that terrible month every single month for 12 months, could you do that? Right? And so you saw the progression that I took of like making no money 2021, making a little bit 2022, and then 2023, just finishing off this year, making 5 times what I made in 2022. You learn a lot, right? And the courses and client ascension is really the main contributing factor for that. So, if I were to do this again now and I had a 9 to 5 that I was working at, I would spend all of my money on courses. Like I would be putting more time into online courses, learning skills than I would to actually like trying to grow a business on the side. I would just be learning skills that could make me money, because the more skills that you have and the more valuable you are as an asset to a company, like if you can generate revenue for a company, increase their profitability, increase operations, their efficiency, like whatever that is in a business, if you can do that and do it really well, then you will make money. Like if there's a problem that's in the marketplace that you see that you can solve and you just learn how to solve it really, really well, that you're going to make money. Like it's not going to be a problem at all. And that was the problem that I ran into, which was when I started in 2021, I was trying to solve a problem that didn't really exist. In my mind, I thought it existed. Like, hey, we're just doing like personal trainers, spreadsheets to help them run their businesses more efficiently. But there was a bunch of apps out for that. Like personal trainers didn't really struggle with that. They more struggle with trying to find clients. So if I did lead generation for personal trainers, that would have worked a lot better. But I was trying to solve a problem that didn't really exist, and so there wasn't really much traction there. And then getting into 2022 with website design, that is a problem. It's, at that time as well, anyone could design a website. It wasn't and it wasn't going after the right market, wasn't doing a ton of volume. But then coming into 2023 now, and this is the first full year in business, we're just solving better problems. That's kind of what it is. But yeah, that's how I was able to quit my 9-to-5. I hope you guys got some value out of this video. And again, if you're in that position, the route that I would take right now if I were to do it again is just to invest everything that I have, like even savings, like just not even keeping any money in the bank account. Because you've probably seen Alex Hormozi, him talking about the S&P 500. Like, you can invest the extra savings that you have in your bank account into something that'll get you, I don't know, 8, 10, 12% returns on a yearly basis. Or you can put it into education and courses, which there's nothing else on this planet that will get you a bigger outsized return than investing into courses early in your career. And that's what happened for me, right? And this is just speaking out of personal experience, right? Like I told you, investing in university and investing the exact same amount into a course online, Client Ascension, which I got back the entire investment in like a matter of months and increased my capacity to earn money, right? So that is how I would do it at this point. But ultimately, it's looking at your expenses, looking at how much you have to pay, decreasing that as much as possible so that you can cover yourself and be able to put all the time, that extra that you have, into your business. So hope you guys got some value out of this video. If you did, if you like this one, let me know. I did put a second option on my poll, which was how to sign your first client, or how I signed my first client for my business. If you guys want to see it, just comment below or like this video and I'll put that one out too. I just want to know what you guys think. Appreciate it.